this point, we got to stop picking our nose,
Yeah.
stop fixing our hair, and pretend that someone's watching, even though they may not be. But we're gonna have some good stuff to talk about today, right?
Yeah, we're good to go. We're ready.
Some cool stuff. As soon as YouTube decides to get off their ass, and actually, it looks like we are streaming, and yes, we are now actually live. Well, cool. Thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in for yet another Friday live Q&A here at the Edge offices in sunny San Diego. Happy 1st of November. Hope you had a great Halloween.
Day of the Dead.
And you were actually able to wake up to listen to this live stream here today. So a few nuggets have kind of occurred over the past 24, 48 hours that we'll be talking about. We'll be covering the Bitmex email hack, not a hack of Bitmex. I want to make that very clear. Bitmex, like in funds and whatnot, were not compromised, but there was an email hack. We'll talk about that, as well as we'll talk about a key security feature. 2FA, very important, not just for Edge, but for other stuff. And then we'll talk a little bit about something that you got a question about.
Yeah, tainted Bitcoin, coming into the Edge wallet. What does that mean?
What exactly does it mean to be tainted? And also, what is the effect if you have any, both on Edge or any other platforms out there that hold Bitcoin, and the importance of dealing with that, or lack of importance of dealing with that. Actually, that's most of my take on it. But anyway, here we are. I missed introductions. My name is Paul Pui. I'm CEO and co-founder of Edge, and also with me is
RJ, QA and support.
How you doing? Head of our support team. So when you call in or send us an email and you have some questions or issues with Edge, you have a decent chance of getting RJ.
You'll most likely get me.
Very, very likely to RJ, but you also have a chance of getting the other support staff that RJ has brought on board.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's kick it off. So Bitmex. So it has been determined that various email accounts that were registered with Bitmex were found in other third-party services, and people were emailed as if Bitmex or other services that emailed those accounts. So it's believed that the email list of accounts were compromised.
Right.
Outside of that, at least from my knowledge, I'm not aware that anything else within the system is compromised.
I think potentially their Twitter handle was maybe compromised for a bit, because they did post later on about that.
Got it. So it's possible the Twitter handle. So therefore, if you get a tweet or a DM from the Bitmex Twitter handle, at least a few hours ago, definitely disregard it if it looks suspicious and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But realize that within systems and companies and systems, there's generally speaking, a good amount of isolation between various systems, and an email list, like a newsletter list, as an example, could be compromised without the core security of personal info compromised at the same time.
Yeah, it could just be the emails only, maybe not all of the information, but we'll have to wait for them to update us.
Yeah, exactly, and we'll be happy to share that with people just to keep them up to date, to make sure that their funds are secure, not just on Bitmex, but on other services. And it's a thing to note, like for example, in Edge, we don't collect any email addresses for the sake of the Edge application itself. So to use it, you just need
so username, 3 characters long, and still optional if you want to do that, but we highly don't recommend to use the same email address or your real name as a username.
Correct.
But you could.
You could, but we don't require it, and we don't recommend it in general. So just a username and a password. However, a lot of people may sign up for our newsletter.
Yeah.
And obviously with our newsletter, the way that we distribute the newsletter is through email. And so we use a third-party service to hold that email list and distribute email newsletters to people. And if that list was compromised, that's a completely separate system than the system of usernames and credentials to access Edge. So not saying this is an equivalent with other services such as Bitmex, but it's a possibility. So get clear, concise understanding before kind of spreading FUD about an entire system being compromised or hacked. So we'll definitely keep you guys up to date on social media when we find out more in line of what's there
to what
at
extent.
risk. To what extent people's credentials and funds may have been at risk. But on that note,
speaking of that,
on that note, with respect to credentials being compromised, if it was credentials, actual username, passwords that were compromised on Bitmex or pretty much any other service, you kind of almost have to assume that when you're using a third-party service with kind of login credentials, you have to assume that those credentials are potentially compromised by a third party that can then use them on other systems. Right. So if they can use them on other systems, how do you then protect that? Well,
so
number one
would be 2FA, which we also have built into the Edge application.
Yep, that definitely protects you. But even before that, just simply having unique passwords.
Right, different passwords for different systems. That makes it a lot harder, as well as different usernames.
Exactly. So the usernames might be a bit tough because some systems ask for your email address as a username.
True.
So that's hard to have multiple, usernames. But having different passwords, that in and of itself will help protect you, and using a password manager definitely gets there. And the second is exactly what you had mentioned.
Right, 2FA.
Enabling 2FA. And so we covered this a couple weeks ago in the Friday Live Q&A, where I had William, co-founder of Edge, and myself talking about the different security features in Edge. But definitely on your different accounts, enable 2FA. In Edge, it's simple. Go to settings, click on like unlock your account. You have to enter your password to unlock your account, and then tap two-factor authentication. You just enable it, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else but push one button to enable two-factor, and then you're now protected.
Yeah,
in case.
it's just one tap, you're ready to go. You don't need another application, like Google 2FA. It's just built into Edge, and you're protected once it's turned on.
Yep, exactly. And one thing to note as well is that this brings up, this whole issue of emails getting compromised brings up the greater issue of KYC as a whole.
Right.
So in email, people say, well, KYC, they think of KYC, especially in the crypto space, we're so used to such heavy know your customer that people think of it as, oh, your passport, your name, address, your phone number, your social security number. But really, KYC is a full gradient of information about, personal information about the user. It could be something as small as an email address or a phone number. It could be expanded. It could actually be someone's personal name. It could be their address, to the full shebang: passport, scan, selfie with you.
Yeah, holding the card,
holding a card and a written note, and all of that is gray area or gradient of KYC. But the real thing to ask is, why collect any of it at all? And this hack kind of proves that any amount of information that you collect is just that amount of data that now could be compromised and effectively puts your user base at risk.
Yeah, and it puts their identities at risk.
Yep, exactly. And so, we've taken a strong stance, and many companies have as well taken a strong stance to say that if we don't need that information, then don't collect it. Like, we have a newsletter. Well, we need it to be able to send a newsletter out to the users that are subscribing. But if we don't need their full name and we don't need their phone number and their address, then we don't collect it. And it's been unfortunate that the cryptocurrency world and government, as more specifically, has forced companies to collect information that, in order to do business with those people, they don't really need.
Yeah, they're requiring extra information that they don't really need.
Yeah, they don't really need, and you don't need to be able to transact. You don't need to be able to, for example, exchange cryptocurrencies or to be able to process a payment. I'm starting to hear that even to be able to buy a physical good at a store.
What?
To be able to buy a physical good at a store, payment processors such as BitPay are now requiring a level of KYC.
Wow.
Which to me sounds absurd. It's like you go to a coffee shop, you want to buy some coffee, you want to have a meal. Even, pick like one of the most expensive meals you could have, a $300-$400 meal at a fancy, that's actually a one-star Michelin restaurant, would be a $300-$400 meal. But you want to pay with Bitcoin, and suddenly you've got a KYC.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do maybe with just data mining. They just want to, from the beginning, just know the customer that wants to buy that kind of.
I think definitely
restaurant
outside of the cryptocurrency world, there's definitely an interest in data mining.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is that I think in the crypto world, a lot of influence from government and state has been from the fear of, or at least maybe even influence from established financial institutions to say, oh, you might be facilitating illicit activities by supporting an anonymous currency.
Right.
Sure, if you're effectively feeding a terrorist at a restaurant, are you facilitating terrorism because you serve food to somebody?
Right.
And at its extreme, one could say yes. But let's get real. You're serving food to anyone that walks in and can pay for it.
Yeah, you're just hungry too.
Are you nourishing the terrorists? Well, yes, but they take part in many aspects of the economy, for better or worse. And so to require that level of friction of KYCing the 99.9% of the user base that is not doing anything illicit.
Yeah, they're not doing anything bad. They just want to.
Yeah. And when I said that BitPay was collecting KYC, I wasn't saying that they're requiring a selfie and a passport. To my understanding, it was literally just an email.
Yeah.
But even just an email, as we can see, is a piece of personal information that has a potential to be compromised. And people want to be selective of who holds that information.
Right.
Right, which entities hold that? If they go and give a business card to someone, they've entrusted that person. They sign up for a newsletter, they entrust that person, but they just want to go to a restaurant and buy something.
Yeah, and they got to give out their email.
Yeah, just to be able to make a payment. So somewhat silly, and I think this event with these emails being breached proves that really we shouldn't be required to or shouldn't be interested in collecting this information if at all possible, and if it's not necessary to do business.
Right.
And so that I think is one of the more relevant pieces to extract out of this experience that we're having with email and credential hacks like this.
Yeah, we do minimize the amount of information that we give out.
Yep. So once
Unless
again,
absolutely necessary.
go out there, protect yourself. If you did have an account with Bitmex, once again, not that the accounts were compromised at all, but if you did,
Yeah.
just worth making sure that if at all you might have reused passwords between that service and any other service, go ahead and change them to be unique and different. Number one, and then number two, enable two-factor authentication on all the other accounts that you've got, and so therefore even a shared password wouldn't really help get that account compromised.
Right,
So
that would
cool.
help really mitigate risk.
Exactly. So go ahead and protect yourself. All right. Second, what were we talking about?
2FA.
2FA. Well, we talked
Yeah.
about 2FA to a strong degree, but
Yeah.
tainted Bitcoin.
Oh, right.
This was actually asked of us. We just came back actually from an event, World CryptoCon.
Yeah, we're over at Las Vegas. I got to dress up as a Bitcoin character. The
Oh,
logo.
that's right. The Bitcoin
So that was pretty
mascot.
fun. Yeah.
The Bitcoin mascot was over there walking around, taking photos with people. RJ got a chance to be the Bitcoin mascot over at World CryptoCon for maybe a few minutes and
Yeah.
walk around, take pictures with people. Great event. Had a good time over there. Met a lot of the cool influencers, YouTubers, other companies in the space, potential partners, some of our existing partners. Change Now was over there, so hats off to them for making the big trek
Yeah.
all the way from Russia over to Vegas to participate in World CryptoCon.
Yeah, it was
But,
definitely fun to get to meet them in person.
Yeah, it was definitely a good event. And so one of the questions that was asked of us at the event was
Yeah.
whether or not.
Can Edge receive tainted or bad Bitcoins into
Right.
a wallet?
And so first thing is to define what exactly is a tainted Bitcoin.
Yeah, so a tainted Bitcoin could be just illicit funds, maybe that's been flagged that came from Silk Road or some other, like terrorist organization that they can tell that they actually held those funds and then later was sent off to you.
Got it. So this is a really, really hot debated topic. Just even the concept of trying to blacklist tainted Bitcoin. And I think this is difficult because, number one, what you're really tainting is an address, like a specific address in Bitcoin. That's the thing that you're tainting. You're not really tainting funds.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a Bitcoin that goes from one person to another. All there is are transactions that go from addresses to other addresses.
Right.
And if a government entity were to say, we're going to blacklist this address,
And maybe the next 10 addresses or something, they could, something like that.
they could do that, except that that address in and of itself could also be easily, super trivially moved, or the funds from that address so trivially moved to another address, which may or may not be owned by the same party, and moved to another address, which may or may not be owned by the same party. And at some point, say you cover the next 10 addresses, but by the 11th address,
Yeah.
if an entity or like a chain analysis says we're going to look 10 addresses, great. It's super trivial for a malicious actor to say, well, I'm just going to move it 10 times.
Yeah, they might do like 100.
Yeah, or just do 11.
Yeah.
Or just 12. And at that point, do you continue to follow? And realize that when you taint one address, that address can take funds and send it to 2 different addresses.
Yep.
Those 2 addresses can send it to 2 addresses each, now going to 4.
Yeah, 'cause
Those
it's
4
chain addresses.
exactly can send it to 2 addresses each, now becoming 8. And that's what's called exponential growth. Exponents move very, very quickly, and before you know it, you may have so many addresses that you've tainted effectively most of the money
Yeah, like
in
hundreds of
Bitcoin.
thousands.
Hundreds of thousands
Right.
of funds in Bitcoin. One thing that can even be done is, this tainted address can just send small dust amounts to thousands of addresses, now tainting random people's funds.
Yeah.
So the concept or thought of trying to follow the money and then preventing someone from transacting because they have an address that might be remotely associated to an illicit address, I fundamentally think is a broken model and puts a lot of well-meaning people at risk.
Right.
Like I have an address. I could be a charity that's just simply receiving money
Yeah,
on
and
a
someone
regular
just
basis.
Sent like maybe 0.0001 Bitcoins that were tainted, and now that screws up.
And now,
the charity's
that
funds.
address simply can't transact or can't cash out their money.
Yeah,
and
it'll get
can't.
flagged.
Yeah, exactly. It gets flagged because Bitcoin is it's a push network, and it's irreversible, that means any address can receive money, and you cannot stop that address from receiving
block
money.
it.
So the concept that an address receiving money is facilitating transactions from wherever it received money from.
Right.
Like, so just because I received money from some entity that have anything to do with that entity is a fundamentally broken assumption.
Yes.
In the current financial system, it's not a broken assumption, because there's two ways to receive money in the current financial system.
Yeah.
One is cash, which means I had to physically be there with you,
Yeah.
right? You had to physically give me that cash, or in a digital transfer that's 100% KYC'd, and I know that this certain person received me money, and I could reject it.
Right.
And so if it was a terrorist that sent me a HSBC bank wire, which sounds like they've done,
Yeah.
sounds like they've done, then I am associated with that person. But in Bitcoin, it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
So to further answer the question, what was the original question is like, how
Yeah.
do we handle tainted
Well,
addresses?
can we still receive it? So the answer is yes, we
Yes.
can still receive it.
We simply don't flag any specific addresses for being able to send and receive.
Right.
And as well, our app does one simple thing. It talks directly to the Bitcoin blockchain networks.
Yeah.
To make a transaction on Edge, you don't talk to Edge. You don't talk to any of our servers or our infrastructure to create that transaction or even to receive money. You talk to the open nodes and APIs on the network.
On the network.
So if those nodes and APIs on the network chose to taint an address and prevent transactions, then sure, the users of Edge would hit that limitation.
Right.
But unless the open network decided to taint something or prevent a transaction from happening from an address, then we don't have the capacity to prevent that from
Right.
happening. We're just open source code that talks to the open blockchain network and just lets it transact, not unlike Bitcoin Core. So Bitcoin Core, it's open source software, and the core implementations of most other currencies,
Yes.
Dash, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, none of those implement any level of blacklisting, because I think that's a slippery slope. It's like, well, you implement a blacklist into your code. Does that list grow? Does it now affect well-meaning people?
Yeah, like
that,
innocent addresses or funds.
exactly,
So-
that might have just received money from a malicious actor.
Yeah.
So I think that's a dangerous slippery slope. It requires a lot of subjective decision making, and we want to be a good pure software service that connects to these networks. So to answer the question is, yes, we don't list any specific addresses that are whitelisted or blacklisted.
Yeah, we don't block any.
Now we don't block any. We don't really have the capacity to do that.
Yeah.
Because we just connect to the open network. And in that regard, you have the true sort of a freedom of transaction that you get with cryptocurrency. Yep.
Yeah, so that answered that question.
Yep. So tainted Bitcoin. So hopefully that answers that question. Let us know if you have any other questions in that regard. And of course, this is a live Q&A, and so if you guys have any questions, outside of what we're covering here, feel free to go ahead and chime in on the chat, and then we're happy to answer your questions. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So going forward, you had actually picked up a few questions. Literally, RJ of all people is perfect for the live Q&A because being someone that works in support, he gets the actual legitimate questions from people, not just the issues, but just general questions that people have, like little how-tos.
Yeah, it's like even how-to questions. Like a couple I got today is, how do you do an exchange? And it's pretty simple. Inside your Edge account, when you see the exchange button on the bottom right, tap it. You'll be able to select your wallet that you want to convert your funds into. And right under will be the receiving coin wallet that you want to receive your coins. And from there, you can just enter the amount that you want to convert to. And from there, slide to confirm. And anywhere from a few minutes, maybe a couple hours, depending on liquidity, you'll be able to make that exchange and convert your coins.
Yeah, so I think the question of how to exchange we get quite a bit. And maybe that's a bit of our fault. I'm not making it like absolutely obvious in Edge. But in a way, there's different kinds of exchange.
Yeah.
Right, you talked about the crypto to crypto exchange.
Right.
Like, how do I turn one crypto into another? And exactly as RJ said, there's a button on the bottom right of Edge.
Yes.
Nice big button says exchange. And you just simply pick your source wallet, which effectively is your source currency, and then pick a destination currency that you want to turn that crypto into, and then specify the amount.
Yeah.
From there, it actually will then go and find you the best price across 8 different exchange partners,
exchanges,
including, I believe, about 3 different decentralized exchanges,
right,
which are for ERC20 to Ethereum or ERC20 to ERC20 tokens. And then from there, to simply get you the best price and you can confirm that, and like you said, within a few minutes, or hopefully no more than about an hour, you'll get the other coin deposited into the destination wallet. But there's also the request to exchange fiat currencies with cryptocurrency.
Yeah, so you can actually do that even without an actual on-ramp or off-ramp for fiat exchanges. So there are tokens that are tied to the dollar. So if you wanted to, you could convert your Bitcoin, maybe it's at a high price and you want to cash out. You don't really need to cash out to a bank. You can just convert it to a dollar stable coin.
Like DAI.
Yeah, like DAI. And then from there, now you have DAI that's locked in dollars and doesn't even hit your bank. And maybe later on, maybe Bitcoin crashes, you want to get some Bitcoins at a discount.
Yep.
There you go, make your buy. Buy
Exactly.
buy some Bitcoins with your DAI.
Yep, you can go from Bitcoin to DAI, Ether to DAI, and a good number of different currencies into DAI, which effectively enables trading of Bitcoin to the dollar all from within Edge without ever having to touch your bank account.
Right.
Now, if you do want to touch the bank account and you want to actually sell either Bitcoin or DAI, you actually could do that. If you're in the US, you can sell DAI.
Yeah, and we got
directly,
you covered there.
Directly to your bank account through our partner Wire, WYRE, fully integrated in the app. Sells are actually unlimited. You can sell an unlimited amount right to your bank.
No limits for selling.
No limits for selling. You do have a limit for buying of $2,500 a week, 10 grand a month. But if you're not selling or buying specifically to get into or out of dollars in a bank account or physical dollars, and you just want to trade the value of a crypto with the dollar, then yes, you can trade right into DAI, a stablecoin, and we support several other stablecoins as well. Tether, USDT,
Yes.
GUSD, that's Gemini, and then USDC,
Yep.
which is supported by, I think, Coinbase and Circle.
Right.
Right. So those are all great options to be able to hedge away from some crypto like Bitcoin into a dollar equivalent.
Yeah, and all that, it just makes trading a lot faster because if you're buying and selling through your bank account, you got to wait for the funds to hit it.
Exactly.
Then you got to wait for it, for Bitcoins to come in or whatever coin you purchased. But with tokens, you get it, that same day. And then if you wanted to buy back later, maybe Bitcoin price tanks, 3 hours from now, you can make that buy with your DAI.
Yep, exactly. And the nice thing is, a lot of people say, yeah, it's kind of slow. Did you say 10 minutes or an hour? Well, I can execute that in a millisecond on like Binance or whatnot.
Right.
And sure you can, but realize what we're doing is we're giving you a non-custodial option. This is a non-custodial trade.
Yeah.
Now the funds may flow through an exchange, but when you're done, you have funds in the keys that you own.
Right.
Right, you're not leaving money with a centralized exchange. So yes, it does take a bit more time, but you have that nice trade-off. Now granted, if you always held your own keys and you wanted to do this type of a trade, so you had some Bitcoin, on some wallet, even in Edge, but you wanted to go use like a Binance, you'd have to send your Bitcoin over there first and foremost.
Yeah.
Which means that you're waiting about 3 confirmations, that's 30 minutes at least.
Right.
And you have price volatility during that time. Once it's deposited, you then have to go back and log in to the exchange and then issue your trade, say for DAI or Tether, wait for that to settle, and then go and withdraw it, which can then take a little bit more time as well. So that entire process actually could take quite a bit of time.
And then sometimes they might even ask for additional information.
And then they might actually lock up your funds. So exchanges are known to do that. You deposit funds and then funds potentially
for
get locked
any
up.
reason,
Yeah, they might, and also they have the ability to prevent you from even just transacting the funds that you already have.
Yeah,
Even after you've done your trade and it's settled, they might at a later point in time say, well, you know something, I'm not sure I want you to send your money to that address. Because they may have implemented blacklisting of addresses. So a lot of people have experienced this where they're trading through an exchange, but the transactions that they make that are independent of the trades can potentially be blacklisted.
Or you might have coins parked there, and then they might announce, "Oh, we no longer support the United States."
Exactly, and suddenly you're going to take them out. And so with us, with Edge and many other non-custodial solutions, you never have to take your money out to be able to transact it. After the trade, you always have it right there, and they're ready to go.
Right.
And so that's all crypto to crypto we talked about. But of course, we support going to and from your bank account.
Yeah.
We talked about it with DAI, support definitely Bitcoin in just about every country. You can buy with a credit card, bank transfer in US and Europe, no KYC in Europe, ironically.
Yeah, 5,000 a day, I believe.
5,000 per day with no KYC in Switzerland as well. We are soon launching support for UK native bank transfer as well, and we'll go into more detail about that maybe next week.
Right.
So definitely give it a try. Just enter in the app what country you're in, and it'll give you all the details of where and what kind of payment methods you could use to go in and out of crypto and fiat.
Right on.
But actually, one thing that we didn't mention that we're that we should talk about today. Is that nugget new feature that we just actually added.
Yeah, so our
Very
last
cool.
update, we had a Compound integrated.
Yeah.
Want to tell us more about Compound?
Yeah, well, let's first start off with interest rates as a whole.
Okay.
Like, what in the world is happening to our world with 0 to negative interest rates?
Yeah.
There's almost no point in putting money in a savings account at
Right.
this point, because the rate of inflation is much higher than the rate of interest you're going to get sitting in an interest-bearing account, quote-unquote interest-bearing savings account. And so we launched support for a great, relatively decentralized project called Compound. And if you are on our newsletter, if you're not, please subscribe to the newsletter edge.app. But our last newsletter that we put out a couple weeks ago talked about what Compound is in general. And it's an interest-bearing token that earns interest on several different native assets on Ethereum. So Ether, Rep, BAT tokens, DAI, which has the highest interest rate at 7.5 on average percent, and wrapped BTC.
Yeah, I was going to say WBTC, I think.
Yep, WBTC, which is basically a stable coin. It's not really stable because Bitcoin is volatile, but it's a coin. It's an ERC20 Ethereum token that is backed by Bitcoin. Now, there is a trust factor there. It's much like Tether or GUSD. There's a company that holds an amount of Bitcoin equivalent to one Bitcoin per one wrapped BTC. So you do have a trust factor there. But the other coins like BAT token, Rep, Ether itself, and DAI don't have a counterparty that holds that value. But in Edge, you can get an interest-bearing token by just simply taking the native tokens such as DAI, or actually Ether, and converting it into the token, but with a C at the beginning of it. So for DAI, it's called CDAI.
Right.
And so when you convert DAI to CDAI, you'll have a number of CDAI sitting in your account that when you first do the conversion is a rough dollar equivalent to the same amount of DAI.
Yeah.
So you convert $10 of DAI to CDAI, you'll get about $10, and maybe a little less because of the exchange fees, about a little less equivalent of CDAI. But now that CDAI in exchange rate starts to go up in value at currently the rate of about 7 to 8% a year.
Right. And it's through a smart contract.
It's through a smart contract where other people on the other side of the smart contract are wanting to borrow your CDAI, and they will pay an interest for it.
Right.
So they're paying the interest, you're gaining the interest. And after a year, you potentially now have 8%, 8% more DAI than you started off with. Now, in order for you to realize that gain, you have to convert the CDAI back into DAI.
Yeah, so one thing to clear up, when you have CDAI or whatever Compound coin, you won't be seeing like daily interest transactions come in like spam. It's, because it's a smart contract, it's not until you swap back the Compound coin into its original coin, and then you might notice it at a higher value than before.
Exactly, and the units of CDAI are very oddball. Like you can. I think I tested this and I converted 5 or 10 DAI into CDAI, and I got 200 something CDAI.
Yeah.
So don't pay too much attention at the units of the CDAI. What's more interesting is the exchange rate relative to the dollar, and how that effectively goes up with time. Right, so each CDAI becomes more valuable relative to DAI, but definitely you can give it a try today in the current release version of Edge. I think the minimum version that supports it's 1.10.0, so convert some DAI into CDAI, and you can see the interest go up over time, and then convert it back out. And this is a great example of the DeFi movement effectively replacing some of the functionality of the centralized counterparts.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're seeing that first with something like an interest-bearing account. I think we're starting to see it now as well with loans, because the opposite side of the CDAI is someone that's wanting to borrow money and collateralize that loan. Right, they're collateralizing that loan and borrowing money. And then in the future, we're excited to see things like even leverage trading. 1x, 2, 3, 4, 5x leverage trading can totally be done with a smart contract. We don't have that in Edge today, but we're excited soon. Well, soon is a little bit of a rush, but soonish, or it's being researched. Yes. Like I say, it's being researched. We're excited to be able to bring that to reality. But that is something that we hadn't decided to talk about, but I just recalled just went into our last release. So definitely check out that blog post on edge.app/blog or blog.edge.app. I can't remember now. Edge.app/blog. Check out the blog post that describes what the project Compound is in the first place, and then check it out inside the latest version of Edge, convert some DAI into CDAI, courtesy of our swap partner.
Yeah, change now.
Actually, Total.
Total. Oh, Total.
Total. TOTLE.
Right.
So hats off to Total for enabling this to be possible from within Edge, at least making it relatively simple to convert between these two kinds of tokens. And it's actually a decentralized exchange that's doing this. And that
it's a
DEX. You're not trusting any counterparty when you convert ETH into CDAI.
Right.
You're just plain and simply sending ETH or DAI into a smart contract and receiving CDAI back. So definitely check it out. I'm excited to have that live.
One more thing, just in case. So even to just add it. So remember, you want to tap the 3 dots on the right side of your Ethereum wallet. You'll notice the compound coins that you can check mark and add to your wallet if you don't already have it added. So that's the way to access it.
So great point is that tokens don't automatically show up in Ethereum wallets. You have to add them.
Yeah.
And so as RJ said, there's 3 dots to the right of any Ethereum wallet. You tap that, and then there's an Add Edit Tokens button. In that list, you'll see CDAI, and that's how you can just tap on the box. And when you back out, you'll see that CDAI is now enabled inside of your Ethereum wallet.
Right. And then from there, just like what we talked about before, it's already on the list. You go to exchange, and now you can select your coin that you want to convert into CDAI or any of the other compound coins.
Cool. We got one question. So we're just at the end of our half-hour slot, but I'm going to answer one question from Jet Black GT.
2.0.
Any thoughts on ETH 2.0? And I actually talked about this at length on another podcast with Naomi Brockwell, CoinWatch. So for those of you listening, if you want to get a good detailed discussion about specific coins and protocols and blockchains, definitely check out CoinWatch, which is on a semi-regular, about maybe once every 3 weeks, show on NBTV, Naomi Brockwell's YouTube channel, which I co-host. But there we talked in detail about ETH 2.0.
Right.
It's probably more than I can discuss. I am excited about it. I'm excited about them doing one very, very key thing that most other scaling solutions aren't doing, which is number one is truly sharding.
Okay,
right?
so that's when you have sharding.
So sharding versus just proof of stake. Proof of stake itself does not scale.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's fine. Not that it doesn't work. It's that it doesn't fix scalability all by itself. You need something else. So sharding actually fixes scalability by taking work and distributing it across different computers, right? So as opposed to every computer doing all the work, you effectively have different computers doing the different work necessary for processing transactions on a blockchain.
Right.
And ETH 2.0 is targeting this, but more importantly than that, because we can shard in different ways already. Just using Dash to spend money versus Bitcoin to hold your store value is in a way sharding. It's what we call poor man sharding. Side chains are sharding.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you have the main chain, but the main chain's expensive, so we move money to a side chain to do fast transactions, move it to another side chain to do smart contract, DeFi stuff. All of that is sharding. But what ETH 2.0 is doing is making it where sharding is invisible to the end user.
Yeah.
That to me is super important, where I just transact as normal and I don't realize that what's happening behind the scenes
It's all underneath the covers.
It's all underneath the covers.
It's
all
like
kind
magic.
of hidden. It's like magic. It's what we fundamentally believe in at Edge, right? Our key management.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Make it invisible and familiar.
Make it familiar. You're just sending ETH. Now the transition to get there is not invisible. It's a really hard path to get to ETH 2.0.
Yeah.
But if they're able to succeed, the user experience will be great. You just send ETH, you receive ETH, you make a smart contract, it executes.
Yeah.
There's nothing as an end user that you have to deal with, in contrast to side chains, to Lightning, to poor man sharding, as I said, using multiple chains.
Right.
And so in that regard, that's hopefully Jet Black GT, that answers your question. So that's my thoughts on ETH 2.0. They're one of the few solutions to scaling that hide the complexity. Super complex under the covers. So complex that I'm concerned as to whether or not it'll work. But if they are able to get it to work, there's really nothing that the end user has to deal with. They just send, receive ETH, take out loans, do the normal stuff.
Right. That's something that we're about.
Yep, exactly. Totally what we're about. So definitely best wishes to the team working on ETH 2.0. Hope to help support and see that live pretty soon. Yeah. But otherwise, the thing we normally end with is where we're at and where we're going to be.
Yeah,
so we
where
came
we're
from
going to be next.
We came from World CryptoCon in
Vegas.
It's actually just finished yesterday. We missed the last day. We had to head home for Halloween, hang out with the kids.
Yep.
But I will be in Cleveland, Blockland, Cleveland, in early December. I believe that is. I don't have it in front of me. Blockland, Cleveland 2.0. feel embarrassed for not having the dates on me right now, but it will be December 9th through the 11th. So that's just next month, about a little over a month away from now. And then immediately after Blockland Cleveland, I will be at La BitConf, the Latin American Bitcoin Conference. This year it's in Uruguay, and I believe that's the 12th through the 14th. Also December. So
Right.
back to back, I'll be on a bit of a travel, probably a couple of weeks away from home in December before the holidays. So definitely come say hi, come by to my talks or panels. Blockland in Cleveland, December 9 to 11, and then Latin American Bitcoin Conference in Uruguay right after that, 12th to the 14th.
And that'll wrap it up for the year.
That should wrap it up for the year. Cool. So thanks a lot for everyone for listening, and we'll catch you again next Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific time. And remember,
Every Friday, not your keys.
not your coin.